Good morning, ACF. My name is Amanda Cook, and this morning I wanted to walk through Psalms 2, 1 through 5 with you. It says, "Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth rise up and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, 'Let us break their chains and throw off their shackles.' The one enthroned in heaven laughs, the Lord scoffs at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath." Since the beginning of time, the world has known strife. It seems like the history of man is essentially the history of war. For those of us in Alaska, this is more up close and personal. I can't tell you how many times I've had my friends' husbands deploy for months on end, time after time. And now our country faces continued racial tension, rising crime rates, division in politics, COVID-19, random violence, and the increasing moral degeneracy that we are witnessing. Poet Robert Browning wrote, "God's in heaven, all is right with the world." Our response to this might be, "Are you crazy? Where have you been for the last couple of years?" Instead, we might be more inclined to side with the guy who wrote this limerick. God's plan made a hopeful beginning, but man spoiled his chances by sinning. We trust that the story will end in God's glory, but at present, the other side's winning. Now, this might actually make us laugh out loud, but inside, we do know that this present world is really struggling, and the world scene is no laughing matter. So, should we sink into depression and despair because of this? Or should we stick our heads in the sand like ostriches and just ignore the world around us? Well, Psalms 2 gives us this answer. King David views the rebellion against God of the nations. He looks at the chaos and the scene around him and he says, "Though the nations have rebelled against God, he is sovereign. Thus we must submit to him while there is still time." Even though our world looks like God has been vacationing for a few years, David shows us that God's plans have not failed, that God will not fail, and that everything is under his sovereign control. He will ultimately triumph in his ordained time, and that is some good news for us. Thanks, ACF.